Let's go to the casters. Let's see what they have to say about this after this electrifying desk segment. Mitch, Matt, best casters in the business, Esports Awards, runner-ups, maybe third or fourth places.
I don't really
why
know. Are you bringing that up? I get nominated every year, and I lose to like some lead caster in like their second year work.
Well, it's because they think you're like Bren's stunt double. They don't even think you're casting the league. They just put Bren's video in there. It's just a mess, you know.
They still apologize for that to this day, so at least they're good for that. Welcome back. I'm back in a casting gulag, apparently. Matt, that's a very nice place to be. There's like sun decks, the casting gulag. Yeah, don't worry. That's where I'm.
No, I played Warzone. The gulag.
Oh,
just like dirty toilets. I mean, just broken down boxes.
One of 32 words you know, and I've got to pick it. Unlucky stuff. Okay, well, all right.
I only know it because of Warzone too, so yeah, I got really unlucky.
Learning via video games. We're about to learn something today. Yeah. We're about to learn exactly what the Outlaws have been working on throughout the Dark Week, Matt. This is obviously a team who still remain very competitive. They're 7-1, right? So you really can't write them out in any situation. And who looked incredibly good back in the main melee when there was a lot of Reinhardt being played. That's where we saw the most of Jungkook. We see less of him, actually. In the June Joust, as Dreamer gets rotated in a lot more. We see sort of Orisa. We see some Ball. We do see that the Outlaws really acclimate Dreamer really effectively into their lineup. They look quite good. It's maybe not a meta where you look at their composition and think maybe they're not primed for success, maybe it doesn't suit them as well. But Dante's played a bunch of Echo, still one of the best on that role. Happy is genuinely insane, but was playing a lot of a Reaper a lot of the time. Do you feel like this is a better time for the Outlaws to shine?
I think it will be. I think when you had Dreamer come in to play a lot for Jungkook in the previous tournament, it was really kind of like a stopgap solution because there were some heroes that Jungkook just couldn't play or they felt he couldn't play at that level. Where now, if we kind of go back to some of the stuff we saw in the main melee and you start to see some more Reinhardt and even Orisa and whatnot, like maybe Jungkook can come back and have a bigger spot in this team. So you do see he's starting today. So that's a good sign for fans of the Jungkook Piggy tank line. I think it's better. They probably have practiced significantly more with Jungkook than they have Dreamer. So I think to have him in the lineup's a good thing.
Now, Matt, you had some choice words, I think, for a lot of the speculators about the San Francisco shock, especially on social media and such. But this is a team that is second in your sort of West season standings coming into today, and also was set up to clinch a spot in the knockouts here. They're 2-1 so far with a +2 map differential, pretty decent. They've had to. I mean, it was a tough start to this Summer Showdown for them, but they've come around pretty well. They play a series, well, I want to say with no Violet whatsoever. It was Twilight and FD God for most of it at the very least. So they're trying some things, and hey, they're in a position where they can be in those knockouts here.
I mean, when you have this much talent on the roster and people who are excellent at certain roles versus others, like you're going to have to experiment and move around a little bit, probably more than they would have liked to at this point. But anytime you're able to field a support line of Violet and Twilight, like, you're in a good spot as a team. There are lots of other teams who would trade their spot for the spot that the Shock are in right now, I can tell you that. With the first map in the series being Busan. I think probably the most important thing for the Shock, we saw that Nero kind of ranks, I believe, in the top 5 in terms of damage dealers. It's just getting Ons and Glister acclimated, kind of getting them a spot on this team and making them feel comfortable. And then I think doing the same with FD God, where I think at times FD God really hasn't found his mark in the roster.
Yeah, and I think there was some criticism about that aggressive style of play, that maybe San Francisco had too many elements of that roster were trying to play aggressive, or at least they weren't able to harness it as effectively as they would have liked to on some occasions. Still, they get value out of him, and they're still developing him into what we expect to be a very competent individual. Violet also more lately has been playing a bit more Brigitte, so his role has been expanded as well.
And it's not like we've kind of mentioned, I think, everybody on the show at this point. Like FD got, like, even when he plays for the Shock, he's still tremendous. It's just getting the team more in sync and kind of around his play, right? So the last time we saw this was week 1 of this year. We saw that go to a 5th map. With the Outlaws coming out on top. That was, the Jungkook Shatter, I believe it was like Savannah, like coming around the corner. crazy play. So the Shock will come out with Violet on Lucio. We've been seeing this actually more from the Shock as of late. And the Outlaw is going to go double shield May McCree. So a very stationary comp, but that's going to have the Symmetra teleporter in play. Beautiful teleport of the high ground there for the Shock, and now they're going to try and engage.
I love this repositioning here. Choi Kobin, that Immortality Field stayed around for so long. Choi got, I would argue, at least 200 effective health from that Immortality Field, just for the fact that it couldn't drop any lower than it did. Still, gotta be careful. Happy cleans up Glister and Twilight's down, so the Shock don't have a ton of damage or healing available to them right now. They probably realize, okay, we just need to cap. We need to play close now, and we need to make sure our reinforcements can get back safely.
They may have to give up the point. They don't have the Diva mech. They're going to have to just kind of juggle on here and try and contest for a little bit with Super and keep him alive. But that Maywall doesn't get anything. You're going to get the mech back, and you're going to be able to still fight for this if you're San Francisco.
And the mech's gone again. Happy, ton of damage on towards Choi Kobin. Dante's going to finish the job after he pops out, and the Outlaws look pretty comfortable playing this more compact style.
Yeah, when he went to go remech, he remeched basically right in front of the Amp Matrix, so during the animation, just so much damage came down, and he was knocked out of that. It's a cheeky little boost up there from Dante. As Happy has a Deadeye. We'll see if they actually push on through here. Maybe a Deadeye from behind. It could be pretty dangerous, though, in the position he's playing.
I don't know, Happy's there. Oh, he tried to get cute. I like that. Instead of going for the fan, the hammer looks for the headshot, kill, but can't finish the job. Ice block immediately from Nero. Then pops the Deadeye. Now the shot come in with a speed boost, but Super didn't get any of that sound barrier, if I'm not mistaken. Very defensive Blizzard, but it catches Jungle and Crimso in the mix. Dante had one of his own, though. And again, it's the Outlaws that come out looking a little better, Matthew.
Yeah, it's a big Blizzard. The sound barrier is actually not too bad from Violet. It connects with a bunch of members of the Shock as Choi going for a remech kill there, potentially. But the beat doesn't save Super. The Blizzard is big because it's such a close and quartered fight. Now you have Violet going over to the Zed, so some extra damage coming in here from the Shock.
Happy will again be in this flanking position. Last time he was lying in wait with a flashbang. This time he just has a nice perch. Decent purview of these targets. And Matrix, but there's a Symmetra all in the way here. Super, though, he won't be blocked by it. That is a chunky one. Fantastic shatter from Super. Sporting a interesting new hairstyle there.
What do you think of the
really?
hairstyle?
I think that...
I've seen a lot of comments on it lately.
Well, I don't... Am I allowed to comment on this? Not sure. I think that maybe it was a sub-goal. That's all I'll say.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I don't think it's that bad.
Look, you know, it's a new look for him. It's good. I mean, he can see the game a bit better, which is great. He's kind of cleared his... Let's look at Nero. Nero's struggling right now. He's going to try and, you know, tell his opponents apart from the strands of hair that obviously are supposed to be in his eyes. Fair enough, I guess. Form over function.
Amp Matrix. Yeah. Amp Matrix really deep there from Twilight. It's Shock going to play lower on the point. They want to try and get the Orisa and the Sigma to just kind of drop down and play in this area. Look at this. They're going to wrap around, though, and try and get Super in position to do some big damage.
Happy down fighter finds him on the Zen of all things. Love a bit of Violet Zenyatta. Glister, no way he was getting away from the Hyperspheres there. Blizzard on point now, and I think Super might get caught, and that he does.
Transcendence.
So, keeps him alive. Looks like the accretion doesn't knock him back far enough, not even close enough to the edge. He's frozen again, by the way. All that healing for Violet. Super still getting pressured down, but now Choi Kobin's come to the rescue. He keeps him alive, and Glister with the switch to Tracer claims Happy on that same hero. Amp Matrix is very scary right now. I think Jungle took a ton of damage, but still able to wrap around the corner and get rid of Super. Nicely done. Picky with the waggle hands, gets himself plenty of shielding back, and Twilight's down. This is bad for the Shock, Matt. Real bad.
They get it to 99. They end up losing it. They do get it to 99% though. So one more fight for the Shock to be able to take it. The bad part is they don't have any ultimates. Nothing available online for the Outlaws either. Piggy most likely will end up with Gravitic Flux for this fight, and you're really looking about trying to get Super in position. You don't have that Symmetra teleporter though to get him in a really advantageous position. Big Fire Strike though. Now he's going to have Shatter.
Distant Chili on the point. He's looking for a cap here. Can the Outlaws finish this fight quickly enough or at all? Shatter comes in, 2 shields, makes it a tough ask for Super. Immortality Field's the only thing that keeps the Shock alive. It was their only lifeline in this round, in fact. They didn't even manage to get the cap in the meantime. Glister finally gets it. As Happy looks like he stepped off for just a moment. That will buy a few crucial seconds here for San Francisco. They can stay alive. Glister looks like he's done this all before. Maybe more like Groundhog Day for him now, though, as he runs headlong into an icicle.
Yeah, you're going to have Super back on the Wrecking Ball, staying on, getting a touch as Nero's getting close to a Blizzard. That's going to be a Blizzard from Dante, though. So you will not get another contest, as that'll be the Outlaws who take the first point here. Coming through that side alleyway against the Gravitic Flux, like, there's no way that it's not going to be a massive one, right? You don't have anything to break it up, per se, kind of like stun to make that happen from the Shock at that point. Because you do have Choi on the Diva. The Immortality Field's good to save, players from just dying, but obviously everybody drops extremely low.
What do you think of the Zen Baptiste composition for the Shock here with the Reinhardt?
I like having the Zen in the mix. I don't know if I exactly like it with this composition. We've seen the Zen with the Ball do really nice things. This is interesting, though. They go Torb Ashe. No Orisa, so they'll keep Super on the Rhine, and then they'll play the Zen. This has like a good poke damage, right? But then you're going to have Super pretty much just play the point, just kind of hold serve there. We'll see how they go about it. The Torp turret will have a crossfire here that they're setting up with the Ashe.
Dante on the May, one of his best looks at DPS. Happy on one of his comfort picks as well, the McCree. Happy really, really nasty on that hit scan. Glister takes it off angle here on the Ashe, and that is a pretty nice dynamite connection. That's going to pressure the healing resources now. This bring back T setup, and get her in a jungle is just the absolute jackpot early in the fight. Happy absolutely rolls by Glister.
Yeah, and it's actually a Discord Orb on a Piggy at the start. They put some damage down on him.
See ya.
He gets low enough to be a bit scary, as they're going to be able to keep that player alive that backed out. I believe it was Juvie, but Happy will now be on the Widow, so you're going to have some more changes, I imagine, here for the Outlaws. Looks like GB going back, maybe a Lucio swap. Yeah, so Lucio swap, and that'll be Happy taking out Violet. So you won't have the Zen from the beginning.
Double shield, Lucio, the Baptiste
Violet
here.
plays the Lucio now.
Yeah, he got picked on the Zen. I doesn't want to deal again with the Widowmaker, I dare say. Oh, excuse me! That is against the rules, Happy! Section 17.2, subsection B. Absolutely out of control. Defying the limits is what you'd expect to see from Widowmaker. Play a nice little pick under the drum. Dante, though, is still going to be removed, and so despite that incredible pick from Happy, the Outlaws have to take a back seat.
Yeah, Violet able to just keep Choi up on the point. Violet on the outside was actually putting some pressure as the Lucio player onto Happy. And you're able to use the Torb ultimate to just deter players from running on in and get a hold here for San Francisco, as starting to get into dangerous territory here. As you see Happy is being pushed by Violet. And Violet.
Yep, Violet definitely has shown some aggression on this Lucio. His debut is... we saw it at Eichenwald. He went super aggressive there. So I think he gets the fuel. Nicely done.
He's angry.
Really sets that fight up.
He's angry they took his McCree away. So he's just going to play everything in terms as a DPS. That type of Lucio play, though, may deter Happy from even playing the Widowmaker in the future, as Happy getting close to walls. Dante will have a Blizzard, but you don't get a touch. It looks like Piggy was knocked back just a little bit.
He got accreted.
Before he could even get
That's
the
a
point.
word.
Yeah. It is. It is. It's a word. So now we have that third map come to play. And with Mecha Base, you probably will see a lot more Reinhardt, I imagine, from both teams.
Keep your eyes out for some of those here. The Reinhardt play, obviously, is something we saw both from Super and Jungkook in equal measure. Again, I like what San Francisco showed to that first round with the Symmetra play, but they might be heading away from that a little bit now. Ashe again for Glister. Nero on the Torbjorn.
The Shock will actually... They'll play the Orisa Sigma, which is interesting. I thought they would stay with the Brine, but... This makes more sense with the Zen now, right?
Yeah, it gives that pod composition a bit more... Well, at least it means you can do a bit more with the Holt. It kind of gives a direction for all that long-range damage to go. And Also means that your Reinhardt probably doesn't feel so
that is
done by in the
dangerous.
setup. Happy down to Troika over early. Crimzo has to just try and top his team up. Regenerative Burst has to be used. They're trying to circle around and accost Violent here, who's well protected for the most part. Juby and Dante had already fallen. Super gets a halt off the map on one of his less played tanks. I don't see a lot of the Orisa at all from Super.
I mean, dude, did you see where they teleported? I mean, it was right on top of them on the high ground, and that's how you have a teleport off the side. Did he actually did he pull a sideshow and just die to his own dynamite?
I think he was very low at the time, so yeah, I don't think. Yeah, I mean, could have gone either way that one. I'll say that much. He was very low getting shot across the map, so it's likely he probably dies anyway. But yeah, he did a sideshow. I just like how anyway something can go wrong, we can call a sideshow and people just nod along.
On any hero.
Yeah. Not quite as legendary as the Soldier 76 flank, but that's a story for another day. Nero's already been blown up by Happy, and Acrobatic Flux is dangerous, especially with Dante in this off angle. Twilight's frozen, so he was in a world where he could pressure the May with the Discord Orb on her, but not when he's frozen.
You'll have Bob contest, though. You're going to get a little bit more percentage here for the shock, but yeah, Dante getting right onto Twilight's the play there, because if Twilight's alive, he's going to be able to drop that immortality field, pump tons of healing into the team, maybe keep them up through that Gravitic Flux, but you'll have a supercharger here for Jungle. You have one to return if you're super as well. It's a lot of ultimates to use at once for the shock.
That hits so hard with a supercharger in play there, Matt. Trohyobi catches at least 4. And again, when the Outlaws get dropped down, it's into lava.
Supercharger.
Or cheese.
Yeah, Supercharger, Gravitic Flux, Transcendence, and Molten Core used at the same time there.
Yeah.
For San Francisco. You weren't going to live through that regardless if you're the Outlaws. Shock will get up to about 75% here before this next fight kicks off. And Dante's Blizzard is the winning play here.
Yeah, they go forward. You can see what they can do with the Lucio of Juby here. Barrel up. Somehow the San Francisco shot can escape, but not without a cost. They lose Troy there. Junker goes down. Nice Amp Matrix. He just gets blown up. Junker's crossing the point, so he doesn't have a shield to stand behind. The shot kind of catch him in rotation, which is obviously when Orisa's most vulnerable. But still, Dante's here with yet 2 more kills.
Yeah, as that Troy switched over to the ball, maybe he thought it was going to keep going a little bit longer to try and get a touch, but you don't have much here to work with if you're the shock. You're going to have to live through this Gravitic Flux. There's the sound barrier on the other side. You're almost looking to just kind of force some of these ultimates out. Not necessarily super concerned with winning this next one. Looks like Glister going on a bit of a flank here with a Bob maybe, though.
All right, again, Shock in a very familiar position right now. Gravitic Flux this time from Piggy, and yeah, their fight's over very, very quickly. These are fights that, frankly, San Francisco can spend in this way.
Yeah. That one was to be expected. The bad part for the Shock is they don't do enough damage or put enough pressure to get Juby's sound barrier out. So you still have sound barrier here. As Glister will go to Symmetra, so this will give them some more mobility, be able to get past some of these chokes, put a little bit more pressure on the point.
Okay.
Trying to fake them out.
Still didn't really build. Yeah. Okay. Joy really would love another Gravitic Flux. He may not get it before the end of the round if he's not careful. Here comes the Fondue. Twilight loses that immortality field. The Outlaws one has to get removed manually, and nicely done. Even with that Symmetra barrier, the Outlaws can't hold on. And that Blizzard. Man, it's like a snow dome. It just sits there. Yeah, it just sits there for decoration. Doesn't actually achieve anything of value. Doesn't cool the room down at all, really. And now we're in dangerous territory for the Outlaws. They've had to switch towards a Wrecking Ball to try and keep this game going, unsurprisingly. There's 2 shields in play for the Shock and an Amplification Matrix in the backline. You can see Twilight there at the left of your screen. He's going to be accosted by Dante, who tries to leap in. Gets past the Matrix, but Nero's turret. That's what's going to happen to flankers if they play against Torbjorn. Not ideal for the Outlaws to start this retake attempt at the final knell with 1 player down. Sound barrier now for the San Francisco Shock, and Matt, you can see them easing into this scenario. This is comfy. It's like an ottoman you've had in the family for 20 years. They're using it now. Wall thrown up. Crimzo's going to get pushed here. Super goes straight towards the Shock again. Yeah, the Doomfist comes back, and again the Doomfist gets shut down. Nicely done by San Francisco. A good second to last fight, Matt, that really sets them up for this map win.
Oh yeah, absolutely. When they take the fight and it's the sound barrier used by the Outlaws to just kind of engage onto the Shock, and the Shock answer back with that molten core and able to pick off players from there. That's a huge fight. I think they just really played that well in terms of just changing heroes and adapting throughout the match, right? I thought Violet playing the Lucio is much better than what we've seen from him in the past as well.
Our first look at the Outlaws here in the Summer Showdown, pretty good. They are dealing with the San Francisco Shock, who, I mean, are only ever half a step away from greatness. That's how it looks right now. So stick around. You want to see more of this Outlaws outfit? You want to see more of their comps? Well, it'll be coming right up. Stay tuned.
The Overwatch League is brought to you by T-Mobile, America's largest and fastest 5G network. Set your sights on the competition with T-Mobile. The Overwatch League is brought to you by Coca-Cola, the official refreshment of the Overwatch League, and by IBM, the official cloud and AI partner of the Overwatch League.
Damage lot of shine. Running up the number, that's a lot of crime. Try to take it from me, must be out your mind. Big time, lot of slime. Smoky in the air, that's a lot of pine. Pockets running over with the dollar sign. Try to take it from me. Yeah. Big time, big time, big time. Big time.
That's right. The Houston Outlaws, currently, coming into this week at least, 7 wins, 1 loss in our season standings. Pretty darn impressive. Unfortunately for them, it's some of these losses that aren't always accounted for, or rather counted on your record, which are the ones in the knockouts that have haunted this team. As strong as the Outlaws have been, Matthew, they need to be getting to Hawaii.
Yes, because there are a lot of teams on their tail in terms of league points, right? The top 3 in NA get the auto qualifiers for the playoffs at the end of the season. And the Dallas Fuel obviously in front in NA because of the way that they played in Hawaii in both tournaments. The Shock right on their tail though. And then the Outlaws and a lot of other teams in that 7 to 6 league point area. So getting wins against teams like this caliber, against San Francisco, making it to Hawaii, placing well in the tournaments, all going to be even more important towards the end of the season.
The Outlaws had the benefit, of course, of starting their Summer Showdown campaign a week later than the Shock, for example. So, as we often discuss, they've had a little bit of time to, figure out what other teams are playing, but more importantly, figure out what they feel they'd be best at playing. Quite often, when you get a meta like this, which is one that is not impacted by hero pools, everything's on the table. You get to be a bit more selective about what the maps are forcing, and also what your team's style has you wanting to play. So, Matt, what do you make of this? This is Moira Lucio Reinhardt for the Shock.
So I think the first thing to mention for the Shock is no subs. We don't see Ons come in. We don't see FD God or Smurf. We'll stay with the super tank line as Violet is pushing Choi as slow as you could possibly go. No changes. They're going to play close to the door, play brawly and aggressive as Happy and Co are going to know. He's going to go to Symmetra. Maybe they can TP to the opposite side here, play from a different angle. It's exactly what they do.
Yeah, bit awkward now for the San Francisco Shock as the roles are reversed and not the way they would have liked them to be. Okay, Accretion doesn't really create an opportunity for a kill. Junker's shield is down. Super being pressured as well, Matt.
Yeah, the Outlaws want to poke a little bit, right? With the Orisa and the Sigma. So when they teleport behind them and create that distance and space, that's where their comp gains an advantage. The Shock just want to take these brawls with the Reinhardt up close, personal, especially with the Moira in play. So once that TP comes through and creates that distance and space, you saw the Shock trying to force a fight back onto the cart. Well, yeah, they play around the angle on the cart to contest because they know they can force a fight back onto the payload. It just doesn't work out in the way they imagined it.
So San Francisco stick with the composition that wants to play close because, again, here they do have another opportunity to get a closer quarters engagement. That Shield of Supers, though, looking a little bit worse for wear. They need to push out, but they've lost Nero here. Coalescence is in play. That's when they'd want to commit to this fight, but they get destroyed.
I imagine they switch off of this. We'll see if they do so or not. You see how fast Super Shield goes when we're on board with Super. You can see he's trying to find a target that's isolated and chase them down, finish them off. Not able to do so. You may get one more touch here, though, if you're the Shock. So see if they're able to make a good fight out of it. Piggy with a Gravitic Flux. You have Supercharger and a Blizzard. It's going to be very difficult for San Francisco.
There's the TP play. Both tanks caught in the Gravitic Flux here. Super and Troy both go extremely low. It's really not common to see defenders get 3 fights on this defense here, Matt, at all. So there is that at least for San Francisco. They burned 2 minutes of clock, but I mean, in terms of momentum, in terms of how they're feeling mentally, they're probably not on top.
I mean, this has been perfect offense, though, from the Outlaws. They created the space when they needed to. They know when they have the advantage in terms of the shield pressure and, you know, the nice Maywall from Dante, splitting a player off or two. The Shock, they commit to this. They wanna keep rolling out. They just take so many fights, right? I mean, this is going to be like the 4th, 5th fight we've had already. It's, Nero from the high ground could stop this push with a good Blizzard.
And they're close to another Coalescence again. They had to do a double take there, wondering where on earth the Outlaws ended up. They get rid of the teleporter, so the Outlaws now, if they want to come down and push the cart, well, they're going to have to drop down. Symmetra Barrier in play. It was from Glister, so the Outlaws just had to wait that one out. And here it is, another TP play again. Blizzard, that one is going to be impossible to dodge. Great Maywall to set this up for Dante. He leaves the Shock with nowhere to go. Trickoven burned down by a turret. It's going to be a Blizzard from the Shock this time now as well. Super stayed alive. Glister finds Dante, and San Francisco might have a chance here to turn this. Nero's trying to get to Janggu, but he can't access the Orisa. Still Janggu protected by 4 other teammates.
Yeah, and just, you know, having the teleporter to get to the opposite high ground, you have your own Blizzard in play, so many things there in favor of the Outlaws. Would have been difficult for the Shock to turn that. Even with the Coalescence and the Blizzard, they switch off of the Moira and go to Batiste. They bring in a Doomfist here, and they go to a Sigma. A complete change-up here.
But a great start. They get rid of Juby early. Glister eventually falls, but only because he was in the Gravitic Flux. Pig was hoping for much more from that ultimate, but instead, he's missing Happy and Janggu. There's real no staying power left here for the Outlaws. San Francisco make a switch in comp, man. I'd love your take on this hero lineup.
Yeah, they get some damage at range with the Sigma in play, and also just like a shield for an off-angle play. Also can deny some of the teleporter spots, but we see Happy switching over to the McCree. And then there's nothing that's really going to be able to protect this backline from a Doomfist, right? Doom against the Immortality Field. The Batiste can knock players up out of it, put damage down. I know Brig has the stun, but still, it can be pretty difficult as you see Happy's face there, just completely shocked he got taken out at range there. So the Outlaws have to wait again. And because of so many fights constantly, you know, the Shock are going to take another close-up fight here. They're going to have, I believe that's Piggy sectioned off. They're going to be able to get a kill on him. That's going to be enough to stagger them out for another period of time.
Somehow the Outlaws almost escaped that one, even with the speed boost from Violet. But just Piggy was enough to end the fight there. It does mean, though, that, you know, there's not an extended stagger, and the San Francisco Shock don't build a bunch of free ult percent by getting kills on the other 5 of the Outlaws.
So let's say now with Happy and back on the Symmetra,
no.
You start doing these things, you have a Doomfist being able to punish here as well. As, Glister
no punish.
Went for a punch there. That's a rally that came out. Not able to make anything happen. Amp Matrix for Twilight. You're going to be so close to a sound barrier here for Violet.
Super still alive, being kept up now. Maywall thrown down, and the Supercharger is gone. Sound barrier for San Francisco as they again commit to this fight. The Maywall creates a little bit of spacing. Dante buys some breathing room, and they've got to get there. They do. This is there on the Doomfist. Super, though, falls to the Hyperspheres as he comes across the point, and, well, I've seen that before from the San Francisco Shock. A Gravitic Flux that makes it impossible for them to touch their own cart. Yep, seen that one.
Yeah, it's not able to keep contesting there, just so much in their way. They end up using a sound barrier to try and get to it. The Gravitic Flux comes out from Piggy. You saw Super trying to charge back to the payload. Still, they're in
he's C9'd himself, unfortunately.
Yeah, they're in a spot, though, to get a hold for the whole map, right? Constantly taking these fights, being aggressive. That's going to be an Amp Matrix use. You see Super trying to get out of harm's way from it as Glister will end up getting 2 kills there on the Doom.
Absolutely filthy stuff from Glister's Doomfist. Crucially, finding both DPS players. And he's not done.
Oh, I mean, this is what we expected to see from Glister. He's so talented on so many different heroes. Being able to come in here and play a Doomfist, just at this type of level, really disrupt the Outlaws and what they have going. 1:25 on the clock for Houston. You have a Symmetra wall could be huge here. They know that Glister's playing in this lower area, so they force him out.
Happy calls that out, make sure no one is going to get insta-killed. Losing your May or your Brigitte to a one-hit is one of the worst feelings you can experience. Happy there, straight to the high ground with the rest of the Outlaws. No one's on the card right now. They're eventually going to drop back down, though. Bliss is trying to get out of the Blizzard. He does so. But this is time that he's not in the fight here. And yeah, this is time where his teammates needed him to be in the fray, finding kills. 50 seconds left, though. As the Shockman have done a great job of bleeding clock.
They have. I mean, that's exactly what they've done here. Maywall boosts some players up to the high ground. You also have Happy TP to get across. But they ended up having to use the Symmetra barrier, the Blizzard, and Rally there in that fight. The San Francisco, you play like the percentages for the end game. You have a Shatter, you have a Blizzard of your own. You're going to end up with Sound Barrier here. You need to get this barrier, though, because they know, and I think they're trying to farm it up, because they know that they have the Gravitic Flux.
Yeah, you see everyone split from Super, but they might all get caught in the flux themselves. I like the teleporter placement, but it looks like they're happy enough to catch Chocoban, who might stay alive, actually, from the kinetic grasp. The extra shield keeps him standing, and then the sound barrier comes in. Jungkook's trying to hop, skip, and jump out of the Blizzard, but all get caught, and then in the Gravitic Flux, which he can't escape because he doesn't have Fortify available. Piggy will be next on the chopping block here, but watch out. Twilight's gone down. Chocoban doesn't have a lot of healing, but Super comes in with a big shatter. The Blizzard is there. Chocoban trying to protect his teammates, who are surely going to be frozen, but nobody escapes the frosty gaze of Dante.
And Crimzo able to stay alive throughout all of that chaos. Keep players up on the Batiste. As you know, the Shocker playing for a full map hold there. The Outlaws, they get what they needed, though. They get the completion, even with no time in the bank. Sets them up to get a win here in map number 2.
Right, at least establishes a condition that if their defense looks remotely as solid as their offense did, then they're probably going to be looking pretty good. Although, I feel like it's probably less likely we see them play the same way the Shock have. The Shock just keep taking fights. They keep taking fights. It reminds me of the June Joust final, right? Where both of our, both the Dallas Fuel and the Shanghai Dragons would just take fights. They just build ultimates and they just go and go and go, and they're relentless. San Francisco, I mean, I would argue they lost the vast majority of team fights, and yeah, they're still able to burn more clock than a team defending in a more conservative manner would have. Here's those final moments, Matt.
Yeah, we can take a look from Crimzo's POV. I was mentioning how good he was to be able to stay alive through this. The Amp Matrix healing, then being able to get above this Maywall, the damage he's putting down. I had a good year last year with the Dallas Fuel. The team didn't have that great of a year. Crimzo did. And now coming over to the Outlaws, helping them get wins with plays like that.
Pretty scary stuff. Crimzo nasty on the Batiste. In fact, last time these two teams went head-to-head, it was Crimzo just punishing Violet over and over again, picking him off with the Batiste at the start of the fights. Kind of punishing Violet's tendency to take more aggressive angles. He's obviously still able to do that to a degree on the Lucio here. They want to play, Matt, this Lucio Moira setup with the Ryan again, even though they're not trying to defend close. They know they're going to get some close fights, or at least that's what they want.
And it might work out a bit better for them on offense. We'll see if they're able to get a good teleporter on top of these players of the Outlaws. But you have the Widow damage at range, and then you see Dante just pestering on the Tracer.
And contesting, no less.
Engage. Yeah, they're waiting for them to engage and do something.
Oh, straight hammer swing on 2 catches Dante. Yeah, Super knows that, yeah, he doesn't have to be on the high ground, but if he jumps and swings hammer, he can actually get some big hits. And Tracer, she's pretty squishy, man. She can't take too many of those.
No, and it looked like, at least from Dante's POV, like the hammer may have like clipped through the bridge and hit him. So it's unfortunate for the Outlaws to lose their Tracer, who, like you mentioned, no, Dante's contesting the point at that moment in time, where once you lose that, there's nothing you can do. This is very ambitious from
There's
Piggy.
no good flux there. There just isn't one. All of the shocks spread immediately. And that's that. Point A done.
Yeah, and that is a very long-range flux as well. Maybe a change potentially, but Dante will go. Dante will end up playing May. You have a Symmetra coming through. Piggy's actually going to stay, so maybe they thought there was an outside chance of them being able to turn that. Maybe they were trying to get the beat out potentially. They were trying to get any type of investment, because the Shock, they end up winning that match. They don't invest anything.
No ults. Yeah,
no
both
ults.
fights, no ults.
And now you got to swap. Now you got to swap 2 heroes, and you had one use a big ultimate.
Great start to that fight, though, Matt. Super take. Oh, the Coalescence. Okay. Well, that's the decision. We'll see if Twilight stays on the Moira, but Super takes some damage boosted headshots before the Outlaws even touch the ground. And I think that's really it there. There's no immortality, Phil, with San Francisco's composition, so they have no way to keep him up like that. Especially with the Reinhardt, or rather, excuse me, especially with like Jungle and Picky just clipping through the Rhine shield and just meleeing him if they have to.
Yeah, there's nothing they could do at that time. Sim TP up to the high ground. They do have the Sigma now. Oh, Nero's coming behind. He's going to actually get... They're going to know he's there because of the Sim turrets.
Doesn't matter. What a lob.
He don't care.
I mean, though at that range, right, a little bit risky you normally think, but there's no Orisa. So there's no Diva here rather to eat that up. And maybe, yes, Kinetic Grasp can shut down Blizzard, but it's a lot harder to do. Ballsy stuff from Nero from long range.
Right, and they know he's coming because he's getting hit by the Sim. The Sim turrets behind. Doesn't care, just marches right up and chucks them down the Blizzard. So, well, you gotta contest here. They don't have a speed boost.
You're the May wall. Okay, they get past it. They have to push through proper hard, though. Look at all those barriers are in the way, but Super's the one that's actually caught in a maelstrom of hungry Outlaws players. He's just gobbled up by that. All right.
Happy
I don't think Happy was ready for that.
Yeah, he has no idea that Glister's actually up there behind him.
We doesn't know the Glister's so charged as well. That's how volatile these fights get with the Symmetras that have been chewing on barriers for the first 5 to 10 seconds. This is tough. No one's breaking that May wall. Crimzo on his own, just trying to get through there. That's perfect from Nero. Crimzo is so important at that part of the fight.
I mean, the panic of Crimzo, right? To be stuck behind that wall and see all of the ally health bars on the other side being critical and not being able to break it down in time. But that's a coalescence towards the end of that that helps keep the rest of the members of the Shock alive. They sacrifice Super, a la the Florida Mayhem strategy of sacrificing Checkmate, but it ends up working there. This is going to be a fast engage here from the Outlaws. It's going to be Blizzards from both sides, though.
That's a nasty gravitic flux, though. Look at that, the TP mid-fight while there's a Blizzard. Yeah, that's perfect. And that's what I talked about at the start of the game, right? I love these TP repositions mid-fight. They're pretty hard to pull off. You need a lot of coordination to get everybody on the same page.
Yeah, and the Sim has to be good enough to be able to drop a good TP in that type of chaotic environment, right? So,
God, Matt, any TP out of a Blizzard is one there, right?
Any position, right? Yeah, it's probably a good one. So many ultimates here, though, for the Shock. They're going to get right up to the high ground, Kinetic Grass to give some more health to Choi. This could be a huge flux. The Accretion Mitches, so no stun.
Yeah, Happy down to that one. Violet just pushed in there. You see he's playing close to the doorway. And yeah, Junker realizes, wait a minute, we can't back down the stairs. There's no future for us if that happens. So, Michumaker kind of stuff. Lister finds a lot of value with the turrets.
And the Shock are winning these fights consistently with such little investment. Just the Gravitic Flux there and some good placements with their teleporter to get in a position. I feel like the fights that the Outlaws are winning, they have to go so much harder in terms of an investment to be able to do so. The Shock, they have both support ults here, they have a Shatter, a lot to work with.
Simul's up here. TP was in place. Coalescence also in play here. So the Shock have got great healing for the next few moments. And no one's getting a ton of value out of this air matrix right now. They can't see really. The card is actually blocking a lot of line of sight. It would have been great here. But that Gravitic Flux, I mean, the Shock get put back down onto the card that they wanted to be on. So they ride that home. 3 minutes and 17 in the bank, and they played Lucio Mori the whole round.
And I thought the composition would be better on offense, right? It is a better offensive-based composition. It's just what do they do on defense, right? Their defensive strategy is to play this and take as many fights as possible to stall everything out and just prevent payload progress fast. I don't know if that exactly works, and I say that. I'm sure they could argue the exact opposite, where that the Outlaws, they barely finished the map, right? No time in the time bank. And now we see an Outlaws offense with the Shock on defense. The only thing that'll change, they've been playing Choi, whether it's on the Diva or the Sigma. He'll come out on the Sigma at the start.
Right, so this makes you wonder, okay, San Francisco have the option to sort of take a close fight, and you expect they probably do, because May's still here. Yeah, the Choi Sigma pick. Maybe he's realizing just how good Gravitic Flux is in so many of these situations, but bear in mind, this is a San Francisco team that are foregoing Immortality Field. They're foregoing Ant Matrix to play this composition. They had to get value out of this Lucio Moira setup, Matt.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if the fights drag out and they need an immortality field, the composition's just kind of failing on itself, right?
Yeah,
they want a speed boost. Yeah, they want a speed boost. They want to, pump tons of healing with the Moira and let the Reinhardt do boatloads of damage. TP to the high ground, and you see this forces that space. Nice counter Maywell though from Nero there to help Super try and get out with his life.
This
is where the Shock will struggle though. No.
Happy's charged up. They just eats through Super Shield there. Nero is, he's dead. Yeah, Ice Block, and he's still dead. Yeah, still dead. Still dead. Violet, yeah, very dead. Shokoven also not going to fare much better.
This fight lasts 30 seconds. By the time we have this next fight kick off, it'll probably be in OT. We have seen the Shock though, at least on the defensive side. I think it's a combination of a really good teleporter usage and knowing how to play the comp from the Outlaws, but also the Shock, having moments where they can commit and not doing it.
Here come the Shock now to try and end the round. Air Matrix in play. San Francisco have to work around us, and so they do, literally. They teleport into the back line, but Super gets caught on his way there. Crimzo immortality field to the cart, so the Outlaws can now brawl without a care in the world. And they do. Gravitic Flux there was really just the cherry on top, and will the Outlaws get that first checkpoint remaining, of course, in overtime.
And you say on this if you're the Shock, the benefit here is where the Outlaws were doing a nice job TPing away and creating distance and space between them and the Shock. They can't here because they need the payload, right? OT, you can't leave this, so you know where the fight is happening if you're the Shock. This is where their comp can start to excel. And you're going to have a Coalescence plus Choice, Gravitic Flux. You can take this fight real fast.
TP across, Nero will join them, so all of San Francisco in a flanking angle. I mean, great Symmetra barrier. It makes it really hard to capitalize on the Gravitic Flux, so everybody in the Outlaws gets dropped down and isn't killed because they have at least half of their health by the time they hit that ground. That's incredible stuff. Fantastic Symmetra wall from Happy there. Yeah. And of course, the Air Matrix from Crimzo was elementary at that point.
And even, I mean, you don't need the M-Matrix from Crimzo. The big thing, though, is the Supercharger Rally combo. So they put down the Symmetra wall, try and, help a little bit with the incoming damage. But the Shock can't push into the combination of Rally with all the armor coming onto the members of the Outlaws and the Supercharger. They can't close that distance with this composition. So really nice play there from the Outlaws. Piggy will actually go over to D.Va here as Twilight goes over to Ana. So this is to try and get an eat on these biotic grenades. Shatter comes in for Super, doesn't get anything.
Yeah, even though there's only one shield in play, tough for him to find a flank Shatter opportunity. The Shock need to end it here. They've given up way too much already against the team with 1 minute on the attack. It looks like they get it done. Twilight comes in with the Ana and their biotic grenade. Makes it impossible for Crimzo and Juby to keep everybody topped up. A very impressive push for the Outlaws, most of it occurring in overtime. They get 5 checkpoints and change.
We'll see if it's good enough, though. I don't think they'll come out, at least my opinion, is I don't think we'll see the Outlaws come out and play the Widow and the Tracer at the start. I imagine they go to like the composition that they had a little bit later with the Mei and the Sim, maybe even the Doomfist, and almost use the Shock strategy against them, right? Take fights consistently. These fights are long when you play these kind of brawly types of comps. And now that you have a kind of good, not really a time bank, but a good goal that you've already set with only a minute on the clock, you can play that type of style. And yeah, you see the Outlaws, it'll be the Sim with the Mei at the start.
All right. Let's see if the Outlaws can really wring every last second out of this composition. They're going to need to. There's no guarantee that San Francisco get this map done, but I mean, on their attack, you pointed out San Francisco winning so many fights really cheaply, man. They're actually able to comfortably cycle key ultimate combinations every single team fight because they spend like 1 or 2 per fight. I would say they get outsized amounts of value from a lot of those little 1 and 2 piece combos. So keep an eye out for that here because that's how you get a map done quickly. And it will be the Outlaws defending here. 3 minutes and 17 seconds. On a map like Junkertown, it can disappear quickly. But the Outlaws now need to be very careful.
The Shock gonna come out with that Lucio Moira yet again.
Just a whoa!
Ooh, lots of damage there on Adante.
They keep him up though.
Massive though. For the Outlaws to get a fight win here.
Yeah,
This is
look
huge
at that,
in
Matt.
terms of time.
Almost 1 minute dwindled off the clock just from that one fight. And importantly, look, the Outlaws want those longer fights, right? San Francisco, it's annoying for them. They have to find a way to access this Houston backline as quickly as possible. Expeditiously, Matt. Just like
But they can just TP away if they need to. The TP goes down. I don't think everybody makes through, though. Towards the end, everybody does. So you do get everybody away for the Outlaws. But that's the idea, right? If the shock TP onto the Outlaws will just TP out. And we're in the same spot as we were originally. They couldn't do this the last time, the Outlaws, because they weren't playing the sim at the start.
I mean, Twilight has to pop Coalescence there. Knows they're happy. There's no Immortality Field left. That cooldown already got used here. So having to use that Moira ultimate here, probably pretty frustrating. San Francisco, it's a game of cat and mouse. And you know, the Outlaws do look like the Jerry in this Tom and Jerry situation. Look very clever. And they bleed. Yeah, 2 minutes now approaching off the clock.
It's kind of the disadvantage of having the Reinhardt and the Lucio here, right? If you cannot close that gap and get the Reinhardt into that space, it's useless. There goes Super. That's an Amp Matrix drop there, and just so much damage coming down. Not going to be able to survive that. And that's all you have to use here. I mean, look at the position the Outlaws are in now, man. A minute 20 on the clock for the shock. And you have 5 ultimates here if you're Houston. You're going to have to invest... hey, what's up, Nero? You're going to have to invest so heavy if you're the shock into every single fight from here on out. He's going to touch the cart.
The payload is on the way.
It's noticed straight away. Now they're coming for Nero. What does he do? Wall. Okay, TP. A ton of damage on Dante as he approached there, but he's able to ice block that away. Symmetra barrier also really keeps the Outlaws fairly safe, with the exception of Happy, but his job was done. He put that barrier up in the first place. Oh, it's going to be a sound barrier for the San Francisco Shock. They're forced to invest with everything they have. And they may get what they came for, but there'll have to be another fight here at this rate. Crimzo is keeping Picky topped up so nicely. Oh man, it's good money after bad getting thrown here by San Francisco, man. They've got to use everything to get here.
Well, they want these fights done with. They want to get the contest off. Piggy being helped by Crimzo there, like you mentioned. You might get another good fight here, and you have Supercharger if you're the Outlaws. Just the Coalescence on the other side. So you're in a position to get the map win right here.
No Coalescence. No Gravitic Flux available for Choi, but there is a Coalescence in play. Juby burned down by the turrets here. So the Shock had a moment to set up, to get those turrets in place, and they burnt down. Happy as well. Glistener gets 3 kills in that fight. And San Francisco now, well, this is the position the Outlaws were in last round. Both teams going into the second phase in the map in overtime.
I tell you what, if you're the Outlaws and you lose this next fight, you invest the Amp Matrix, this is very losable. It is going to be ugly. Super goes over to the Orisa, so you're not necessarily in that position where you have to close this gap any longer.
Teleport to the high ground. Wall was already there. The Shock were waiting. And Dante gets hit with an accretion, Matt. This is looking bad. The Outlaws now have to chase after the cart. They've got no choice but to try and die quickly. And at the same time, if they stagger, this could be impossible for them to hold on to. Immortality Field gets burnt down, though. The Outlaws now getting overrun. Troy Coben is there in the front line, pushing back Houston. And the Shock now, again, a situation where they can stagger Houston will be pretty good, but there might be a turnaround here. It's got to be a sound barrier committed to the fight. That almost went really wrong for San Francisco. They have to go for the Blizzard now, and they do, but they need reinforcements badly.
Yeah, and you're going to lose Crimzo so late. You do have players coming back from spawn, though. You have the Symmetra there being able to teleport players in. The Outlaws coming back. You just have the Symmetra wall right now because Crimzo died so late. You may not have an Amp Matrix at the start of this. Dante gets on, just trying to touch.
Remember, it's a checkpoint and change, so there will be like the animation of the door opening. That'll count as time that the Outlaws have hold! They just get off the point. They realize they can't. They cannot contest. If they lost that fight, it would be over. Supercharger and playing on the big Coalescence from the backside. Twilight trying to take things into his own hands. What do you know, Twilight? He tries to go for the hero play, but it's blown up in his face. And now the Outlaws have the players to move forward. No Moira left for the Shock. It's just the Lucio left in an Immortality Field thrown down by Crimzo. And for the Shock, it's all over. Doesn't matter which year it is. Somehow San Francisco always have to make it flashy. This time, it's more of a dynamite stick in their face.
Why take that TP? That is really bizarre there. Towards the end, I don't know if Twilight intended to take that. Maybe he thought the May was going to be a bit closer, and he would have TP'd behind them, but that is it's a very odd attempt there. As things look to be pretty good for the Shock, the Outlaws take the map.
It's going to be an even series here, ladies and gentlemen. Say what you like about that last round. I encourage you to. Vociferously. Either way, it leaves us with a tight series now heading into map number 3. This one way or another, is going to be exciting, so don't go anywhere.
The Overwatch League is brought to you by T-Mobile, America's largest and fastest 5G network. Set your sights on the competition with T-Mobile. And by Xfinity, the preferred internet provider of the Overwatch League.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Overwatch League. A new tournament means a new bracket is unlocked. I'd be curious to see if we can get a perfect score for the Summer Showdown. I would always love seeing how many people get out of these crazy weekends unscathed. Especially the first weekend is always ridiculous. However, if you haven't got involved, I recommend you do. Get yourself over to pick'em.overwatchleague.com to submit your picks for this week's matches. You can obviously be in with a chance to win $500 and this Lucio statue.
Yeah, why wouldn't you do that? Doesn't make any sense.
I don't know, Matthew. I can't imagine why someone wouldn't do that. Now, it's okay if you forget to submit your picks. Josh, I think, does that most weeks, so he's struggling there. But you should try and stay on top of that. Here are our power rankings with IBM Watson featuring May entering this week. And both Nero and Dante are absolutely top 10. Dante's, his rating indicates league average, whereas Nero is a bit higher than that. But you can see a lot of these May players are like 105 to 109 here. So, maybe not the most nuanced hero in some senses, but, I mean, combined with symmetry, you get some very weird sort of, TP walls and stuff like that in a pinch.
Yeah, I did feel like Nero had some really good May walls during that. I'm going to demand that Danny interview Twilight of the Shock win and ask what that TP was. Ants will be in for Nero and Smurf in for Super for Volskaya. No FD God, so we see the Violet Twilight backline yet again, with Violet playing a lot of the Lucio.
Yeah, and look, I mean, we saw it, first in map 1 where he's pressuring Happy. Happy was on the Widowmaker, and Violet looked pretty good. Like, he went aggressive. I don't know what you've been seeing, Matt, but so far I've been pretty happy with Twilight's Lucio.
Violet's been playing the Lucio, but like, you do have the option of, like, with Violet's in the game, you have the option of playing like the Bat Zen if you wanted to, right? Twilight is your Bath Ana player in this, and then you kind of have Violet play things like the Mercy, the Lucio, and then also can flex over to the Zen. So you have Violet picking up some
Don't forget
more
the Brig
main support stuff. Yeah, and the Brig. And you have Violet picking up some more main support stuff here, which I think is an interesting development for San Francisco. Ants comes in, you expect the long-range hit scan. And Smurf comes in, so either like a Ball or Winston setup here. As they're on offense, they have some more time. It'll be the Outlaws still committing to double shield, and then they'll play the McCree Echo combination on D. Dante's gonna Dante and Juby really gonna have to be careful if Hans pulls something out like the Ash of the Widow.
We did love the Echo from Dante. We have, rather, throughout the season so far. She's such a huge part of of the compositions that we saw, but obviously with recent changes, man, she pops out with a little less health than she did. Still, teams played her, after that, and she was a huge factor, of course, in the June Joust. Haven't seen as much of her, but Naga, specifically from the Paris Eternals, looked incredibly good on this Echo, so you'll see more of it for sure.
Hangzhou Tracer with a double bubble set up here for San Francisco. What's interesting, you have a lot of win conditions, right? You can nano the Winston, farm up the Primal, you have Sound Barrier, good sustain ultimate, but then you also have Grab Dragon, which could be huge, as that's going to be Jonggu dropping, so you trade main tanks out here.
Yeah, Ans goes aggressive in order to try and get that Jonggu kill. Maybe he overvalues it a little bit too much relative to the positioning he had to take in order to get it. Piggy slept. He's fine. Why are you mad? You guys are going to win the fight. It's all good. Dante doubles down with a sticky bomb and 2 supports. That's so filthy. He is very close to duplicate already. That's nasty.
Yeah, and Juby gets the res on a Jonggu, so you just bring him right back into the fight. So the Shock, they'll wait. Twilight is going to have this nano boost already, so maybe you invest this nano pretty early into this fight. Get it on the Smurf, let him do some damage, open up some space for the rest of the team.
Meanwhile, San Francisco. Yeah, nano boost is there for Smurf. Arn's still trying to find out why his arrows don't bounce. I'll let him figure that out for himself. Duplicated Winston here will be pretty hard to deal with. They're pretty annoying for Arns. That's the nano on Smurf. Dante going to copy the Winston straight away. Dives the front line, so he's just tangling with Choikyoban right now. Really looks like it's just to create a bit of space. He's not trying to achieve anything specific here, and eventually Arns goes down, and Dante's just one end of that particular pincer.
Yeah, and it's good help from Violet, just booping him away. Is not exactly sure how he lives through that. As this looks like Choi with a pause here, so we'll figure out what's going on. But Smurf actually ended up getting the nano and using Primal, and gets burned down by the members of the Outlaws. So you got nothing for that. looks like Choi just sorting something out here, as now the Shock are ready, so we can jump right back into it. But he was actually happy on the McCree, who is able to catch Ans in the choke. So in that 1v1, the McCree versus the Hangzhou, he was able to win it.
Yeah, I mean, we did see Dante jump on that Hangzhou as well. It looked like Choi was kept occupied by the Dante's duplicator Winston, and Smurf wasn't really in it. Like, okay, so fair enough. He had Primal Rage, he had Nano Boost. Maybe San Francisco, I think that's enough for him. Another bubble probably might have gone a long way there for Choi Herbert if he was able to provide it, because you see the Outlaws, they group up on that high ground. They just meet Smurf at the stairs. A really commanding start for the Houston Outlaws now. And we're down to 2 minutes. Oh, dear.
Yeah, it's a significant time off the clock already. So we're not even close. I mean, we haven't even seen, you know, a Grav Dragon yet, right? Nothing's been going right.
Oh, God. This is bad. This is very bad.
Yeah. It's not been a good look. So we'll lose Violet on the way out here as well.
So
we're going to go down to like a minute 15. I mean, we're getting close to close to the last fight. We're still working on the Dragon, by the way. I mean,
oh yeah, oh God, it's I hate
to be fair to Ons, he hasn't really gotten a great attempt at, you know, doing anything.
How long's an AKM blade? Is it 416? What was the? I forget. I'm not that much.
They've been stifled at the choke the entire time.
Yeah, but their comp, the comp is trying to push into close quarters against like the Baptiste, against the you know, the sticky bombs and such. Smurf goes down crucially. Crimzo could be brought back to life. Juby obviously is on that mercy here, but I think his corpse is going to get camped a little bit. That Dragon Strike, Jungle was already going to push forward anyway. Didn't need any more encouragement to do so. And they burned down the supports.
Now
Jungle was like, what is going on? How are we winning this fight right now? Arndt's got a Dragon in fairness, but he has had a very quiet one.
Does he Primal out of this? Okay, so you get Juby. Smurf is going to stay alive with the Primal Rage here. He's going to have Twilight coming back with a Nano. So you might be able to turn this into the Shock. Yeah.
Piggy has hands here. Still doesn't do anything about the Winston. He had to hit that accretion. I think he's Giga dead. If not, still Glista won't be denied. Chases him down. That's one tick now for San Francisco. Immortality Field was used there already by Crimzo to try and keep them alive, so that won't be available now for this fight. It is like a 4v5. Duplicator Winston, though, Matt. Anything could happen. Jungu's back on the ball, and Glista's already down. It's turning around again. San Francisco, this was supposed to be their chance. They had the player advantage. Arns, I mean, my man, on the legs of all things. Attack shooter experience. Let's see if it does anything. Unlikely. Violet's been taken down already. Choi can barely touch. He is removed. This has been a very lackluster attacking showing from San Francisco. The duplicator Winston timing was just perfect from Dante, Matt. And there's an immortality field for Happy. Oh my, catches Glista. And there it is, Amp Matrix for Happy. He's very pleased to be sat in that left corner with Crimzo.
Finishing them off.
What a defense from the Outlaws. You mentioned no immortality field there available at the end for Houston. What is it though? It's Dante over the top with a duplicate. Takes over the Winston, able to put some pressure on Ans. You have Jungkook then get onto the point as he's on the wrecking ball, but Happy just clicking heads on the McCree. No, the dive came in from the Shock. They were going to have two players contest the point, and then they had Smurf go in to the high ground, try and put some pressure on those players. Smurf and Glister just get deleted, though. I mean, Happy and Crimzo up there just putting in work, and they get a hold. And not a full hold, right? 81% for the Shock. But still, Houston puts themselves in a great position to go up 2-1.
Again, we're in a situation where, you know, we had two distinct looks for the Shock, Matt. And this look, this current one, right? The one that features Smurf, the one that features Arns, it doesn't look as good. It doesn't look as good as the sort of Brian Hart-based setup we saw with, with Super in the mix and Nero. Obviously, it's a very different composition, right? So it's an apples to oranges comparison. San Francisco have struggled to get this double bubble style off the ground in a few of their last few matches.
But it's so in the past you could get away with like, okay, we're really great at this Rhine comp, we're just gonna run it everywhere. You really can't now. With how open hero pools have been, with no hero pools this year, how open the meta's been. It's a way different type of season than we've ever had. Typically everything kind of coalesces around one meta. eventually, where on so many different maps and different scenarios, you can run so many different things this year. So being good at that one comp is obviously a big win, right? But not being able to play some other things at the highest level when we've seen the Outlaws with different looks today, be able to play them all at a very good level. Oh, that is such a
summarizes
great,
this.
Oh, I mean, that is Juby, though, I believe, with a whip shot straight up, knocking him right up into the air, and he can do nothing after that.
Yeah, I think that really summarizes very effectively the woes for San Francisco on this map so far. Dealing with this Orisa-based composition, Jungkook, yeah, I mean, it takes a certain kind of person to play Orisa. You kind of need to have bovine fever to some degree. But hey, it pays off in a big way. The Outlaws, it's going to be so refreshing for them here to be able to net what will be a very quick map at this rate. Very pleased with this. Crimson now with an Ant Matrix for oneself. And the Outlaws very quickly bring the Shock back in line. Convincing performance here.
I mean, that was clean. That was pretty dominant there from the Outlaws. As Dante with a huge play towards the end of defense, being able to get the duplicate and then keep things alive, prevent the Shock from even taking that first point. And then their offense is so easy. The Outlaws look great there.
Dante on the Echoes, always such a treat to see here, and everything works perfectly. Juby's Brig also looking pretty nice. Match point comes up here for the Outlaws. They're going to try and put the Shock away proper and good. Let's see, after the break, if San Francisco can hold off.
Coca-Cola is the official refreshment of the Overwatch League.
This is the Overwatch League, ladies and gentlemen. Good to have you back. It is the Houston Outlaws after, look, a little bit of a slower start in the series, showing us a lot of depth, showing us a ridiculous match on Junkertown, which they were, in fairness, a little fortunate in some senses to end up winning. But I think Volskaya really silenced a lot of the doubters about just how solid and dependable this Outlaws roster is, man.
I mean, you say that with the Outlaws, it's a little bit of a slower start. That first map on Busan goes 2-1. It is very close. I mean, we could have been staring down at like a Houston 3-0.
Could have been 3-0.
I mean, you see some of those scores, it would have been a big 3-0. So we'll see if the Shock can bounce back here in this next map, force a game 5. But yeah, the last map did not look good from them at all. Like, they brought in Ons and Smurf. I don't really think, like, it made a difference. Ons really never got in a position team-wise to make anything happen. So you do have subs coming back.
Get him out!
Sure, whatever you're saying, yeah.
Get him out, man! Get him out! Get him out!
Yeah, because the next map is King's Row, so yeah, you would get them out. You would bring Super back in to play the Rhine here, and then Nero comes back in for Ons. So as we see the players kind of getting all set up in their seats. No FD God yet again, so they go with Violet playing some Lucio, also giving them the option to play some other things, and then keeping Twilight in, whether it be for the Ana or the Moira. So the Outlaws don't make any changes. This is something that I think Outlaws fans wanted to see them just kind of like play one roster, right? In the June Joust, we saw like Jake come in and play some support. We saw Dreamer come in and play some Tang. Jonggu's in, then he's out. And it was a little bit of musical chairs, right? I think Outlaws fans probably want to see more of a consistent lineup.
We saw Jake play sort of, a bunch of the roles that Juby's already shown in this series, I think, that he can play. So the Brig and the Mercy, right? I mean, the Junkrat is an outlier there. I know Happy has the Junkrat he'd love to play. But in general, you probably start thinking, okay, Juby's really been developed to the point now where they don't need to make these like more awkward sort of substitutions midway through a series. He's playing on attack, I think it is, or on defense rather, on Volskaya playing the Mercy. Look, Matt, the Shock. What do you think? Yeah. What do you think about this? Is it like a Sim May look for them now? You think they're going to go for like a Lucio Bapt? It's been one of their better looks. I wonder
if we just go back to the same thing that we saw on Junkertown, where we see
the Moira.
The Rhine, with the Lucio Moira come into play on offense with the Sim and the May. Maybe the Outlaws take a different approach and play like, go back to playing the Orisa Sigma type of compositions. I don't think you bring back in Super and Nero to play something completely different that we haven't seen. I think they're going to go back to what we saw in Junkertown in map number 1.
If that's the case, we kind of know that the Outlaws, probably ready for it. Their compositions, I mean, this Houston Outlaws look here predicates on a longer fight, the ability to put distance between themselves and their assailants, try and get some value out of the poke damage, plus the Baptiste impact. And yeah, Immortality Field to, keep them alive in a pinch. San Francisco, now, even more interestingly, if they do come out with the without the Moira, I'm going to have to ask why, because I want to know what sort of is so different about this map.
So we'll see what they decide to do. There's still some time for them to make some changes. Happy on the Hangzhou, just good burst damage at range, right? If they're able, you don't really need this Symmetra to force space here on defense for Houston. Just kind of the map will do it itself. And so I actually was going to say before the Outlaws, before the Shock came out, this comp makes tons of sense, but not with the Lucio, but with the Zen. They decided to make that change already. So they do have the Zen BAP in the mix. This is going to provide some extra damage, but that's going to be Dante taking out Twilight straight away. So you lose that fight at the choke pretty much instantly.
I mean, Matt, even before they get the kill on Twilight, the Outlaws are moving forward. They are stepping up, trying to get past Super's shield. So without really any other way of prompting, they want to get in the face of the San Francisco Shock. These compositions ostensibly are very similar outside of that Zen difference.
Right, the Zen obviously is not beneficial close range, where the Brigitte definitely is, right? So if the Outlaws can collapse onto the Zen, you see Violet basically almost dead at the start. Glisser saves him with some nice storm arrows from the side, but that's what the Outlaws want to get going. They want to try and collapse on the Zen.
Yeah, they don't account for Glister being in an off angle. I think Dante fully committed to try and getting super. They thought, okay, everybody's on the high ground. We've walled them off. Now we can get this Orisa. That wasn't the case. And even if there was a wall, you know, Glister can climb over it anyway. Nicely done. And they kept Super alive for a hell of a long time, despite all that he was dealing with. San Francisco this time are ready for that little, dare I say it, injection of pace from the Outlaws.
I mean, I think it was just they were not aware that Glister playing that off angle. Maybe weren't aware that he was playing the Hangzhou at that time, and then playing on that off angle is the May wall comes down from Dante. No, it doesn't get anybody trapped on the side of it. Piggy will have the Gravitic Flux here, though, so see if they decide to go with like a Gravitic Flux plus Dragon, the Dragon on the way down.
All right, Happy jumps across. Big Dragon. This is going to force the Transcendence from Violet. Maybe not how Violet would have wanted to use it. San Francisco are still going to be looking for value, but that is unreal. Gravitic Flux. Actually unreal connection there from Higgy. I don't know how he got so many people in that. I thought the shock was spread more thinly than they were, apparently.
I mean, there's a halt in there, right? That helps get a few players. There was no way that they were going to live through that, though, because they stacked the Immortality Field and the Transcendence on top of each other with the Dragon. The Dragon was perfect from half.
Is that necessary?
They would have just gotten through it with the Transcendence, but you also wanted to keep the Transcendence for the Gravitic Flux. It seems like potentially they just got caught in the line of it, and Violet wasn't going to make it out, so had to use it.
Maywall looks like it got voluntarily dropped by Dante there, even though there was a Air Matrix in play. Blizzard and Dragon from San Francisco. Still to get Junko out somehow. Dante's going to fall to the Blizzard. He lost his... Choi ate it up. I see quite a few of those Blizzards getting eaten by Sigma players today. But this looks like another good one from San Francisco here. It doesn't help the Outlaws that they lost their Blizzard. Dante's going to switch to Tracer here. Is this an admission of defeat?
It may just be for this point to try and get back and touch and get another fight going, maybe to contest for a little bit. It's also you can put a lot of more pressure on Violet here with the Tracer. Obviously Zen not the best against lots of players coming up close, whether it be like a Tracer or like, let's say, a Reaper for even say Genji, right? So maybe Dante can force out like an Immortality Field trying to save Violet. He comes from these flanks.
There's a long flank for Dante.
There it is, yeah.
Oh my! It looks like a halt. Kept Violet in place, or was that Supercharger maybe the impact?
It's a Supercharger.
Dante getting a damage boost.
There is a halt in there as well, so you had both.
Wow.
The damage boosted Tracer, yeah. Dante could one-clip him without the damage boost. That time just gets it. Oh, stuck here. Oh, he's going to make it over the wall. That halt may have actually grabbed him over it. Yeah.
Oh my! Immortality Field. Okay, Twilight eventually forced to part with it. That's all. Glister gets burnt down by Dante. He's actually getting some serious Tracer value here against a Baptiste Brigitte composition. That ain't normal.
No, that'll be an Amp Matrix use here for both teams. Where Juby's in a tough spot. They're going to have to try and get some help on him, but super pushed out. I think the Shock, they need to make a decision. Do they want to stay on this Zen, or do they want to play the Brig Mirror? It seems like Dante on Trace is really giving the backline some trouble. So they'll stay on the Zen, but add the Torb in the mix. So they ditch the May and go with the Torb. Torb obviously good against flankers, can put down some damage at the Tracer from the side. Torb theoretically isn't the best against like a Hangzhou, right? He was able to just burn down his turret rather quickly. So we'll see how this plays for San Francisco.
So wide. I wonder what they're looking for.
They probably value the Discord, but need some kind of deterrent for the Tracer. But
that's huge.
Not the
that's
case,
absolutely massive. Dante on the Tracer. Honestly, considering how good Dante is across such a wide range of different heroes, his Tracer isn't always the one that gets him the accolades. It's more off-the-wall ones like Echo and the May and stuff like that, the Sombra even. But this has been an incredible play from him this round.
I think in the past he's definitely gotten his love for his Tracer, right? One of the better players on like the Tracer, Sombra, Echo.
Oh dear!
That's a headshot.
Listen, You live by the sword, you die by that same sword. Random Hangzhou headshots can be given and taken. That's how it goes. You literally, you partake in that celestial lottery when you lock that hero. I'm not hearing it. Storm Arrow. Nero forced up a little bit here. That's a Dragon Strike. Ideally, it just lets Happy get back to the rest of his team.
Are they even going to be able to get to the card?
12 seconds left. Dragon Strike comes through now. Immortality Field was there just in case. This could be it. This could be over for the Shock. They're way too far away. Nero overloads. Nobody's particularly concerned about that. And
nowhere
Unreal.
close.
Absolutely staunch defense from the Houston Outlaws. They are all over San Francisco there. Playing a similar style, looking vastly better. That's exactly how you want to gauge your skill against an opponent.
It is also beneficial when the Outlaws can have just one lineup come in and play these different things.
Sure.
It is hard to, come off the bench and go right into the middle of a series, and especially look at Super for argument's sake, or let's say Nero, right? You play the first 2 maps, you're kind of in this rush of playing in the game, right? You're kind of tapped in, you're locked into the game, and you're starting to get a rhythm, and then you come out, and you don't come out for that long, and then you have to kind of get back up to that point again. It can be tough. It can be pretty tough, and when you have that roster that can come in and play the entire time, that's great. Nice stick there from Dante.
Gets the supercharger as well. The supercharger, rather. That's a lot of value there. I mean, we switched to his Tracer. He's playing against a Baptiste sort of composition. We're like, okay, well, this could be a little bit tough. I think at that point, was there even... I think Twilight...
It's a Bap Zen.
Violet switches, right? Yeah, Bap Zen, sorry.
It's a Bap Zen, so at that time, they just, if he forces out Immortality Field, if he, gets the Zen, those are wins, but he's coming out with huge plays. The shotgun defense, this is, so now we have, where we've seen Violet playing a lot of whether it's the Brig, the Lucio in this series, the Zen. Now we have Twilight playing the Brig, and then Violet playing the Baptiste. Violet plays a very aggressive bat, so...
but it was that very Baptiste pick that got punished by Crimzo last time these teams played.
Yeah.
That Crimzo picked him off at the start of 3 crucial fights over the series, one of them on Havana, which was obviously the map that ended it all. As might this be, the Outlaws, it's a tentative approach to the point here. Dante, though, getting a perfect aerial view of the situation. Of Violet, well, that wasn't even Violet being aggressive, Matt. That was just Dante being a cut above. Perfect execution.
And, Glisser comes out, and I mean, he gets flanked and killed from behind. He pokes out a little bit, and he's got to be worried about Happy, right? A few times during that, I mean, he's just crushing them. A few times during that last round, Glisser would come out and poke, and Happy would just take his head off. That's got to still stay in his head going into this round. But without that aggression and trying to poke and do some damage, Dante's able to just fly around, just focus beam everybody down.
My ultimate is charged.
Ridiculous. That angle that he got on Glister dropped straight back down behind him. Every time he got a kill, his opponent was never expecting it. They were
Houston's
never
going to
ready
win
for
this.
Dante.
Houston's going to win this. 5 minutes on the clock. You have an Amp Matrix. Gravitic Flux. I mean, come on. Look at where the Shock are going to get a fight. Probably on this first corner. If they lose here, the cart's going to basically make it to the end. And you've already lost Super. This is not good play from San Francisco.
This is Dante 1v5ing a lot of the time. Just able to get these assassinations because heads are turned in other directions. He can do what he wants here. Losing Super so early, yeah, you don't expect the amount of damage coming your direction from that Amp Matrix play. I mean, Violet has no choice but to go for it here, but that's an Orisa barrier in the way. And the cart's getting ever closer. Well, it's time now for San Francisco Shock to stand and deliver. They're out of options, they're out of ideas, and they're almost out of time. Bob to the point, Gravitic Flux, perfect connection there. Had to be a Fortify from Super to avoid that, but Trick Open didn't even get held aloft. He got blown up before he even touched the ground. And make it 2 Gravitic Fluxes, by the way. Now, that's a lot to be dealing with right now. And more gravity than Jupiter, I guess. It's going to be the Houston Outlaws to take the series away, and those last 2 maps don't even look remotely close. Not even remotely.
No, those last 2 maps are not competitive. That is That is a dominant display there from the Outlaws. You know, Volskaya is completely one-sided from the Outlaws, and then right here on King's Row, there was never a doubt that they were going to win this map. And I think San Francisco, they probably need to kind of come around on one roster or get closer to it. I think what you saw today is they started to go more with the support line. I actually thought Violet's Lucio was totally fine today, if I'm honest. I think just the coordination between everything else was really poor and not making the right switches at the right time. And the Outlaws, you know, they look really good here in their first match of the Summer Showdown.
Yeah, look, a little bit of a slower start, but like you said, that first map was really, really close. The Junkertown map also was just a spectacle, you know, a phenomena that, you know, it's like Halley's comment. I mean, when we're going to see it again, another 70 years' times, is one of those matches that are really hard to explain the ending of, and then from there on out, it's like it's all out all the time. I mean, I can't decide which was more one-sided. I guess Volskaya was more one-sided, but King's Row also didn't have much to offer there as well. San Francisco, they're in an awkward spot. They go from having all these great players and these great prospects to having a ton of players and a difficulty winning these matches against top teams. I'm interested to see how they bounce back from this. And, you know, Matt, you pointed it out. It's nice that the Outlaws don't have to make all these big swaps all the time. You know, it's something that the Shock don't have the luxury of doing. Let's talk about our player of the match presented by Xfinity here. One of the reasons why the Outlaws don't have to do this chopping and changing all the time, and I want to make it very clear. On this cast, we sim for flex supports. Crimzo, unbelievable player, just really, really incredible. His growth, by the way, just, you know, from his time Toronto Esports initially. He's represented Canada in the World Cup. He was on Dallas Fuel prior to that as well, and you know, a tough season with that Dallas Fuel roster. On the Outlaws, man, the guy looks like his confidence has increased by a magnitude of 10. He's looking sick.
And it just seems like he gets better and better, right? Where you see some players, you know, they kind of hit this peak, and then you kind of see them just kind of keep that play consistently. It seems like Crimzo is very good, but continues to get better and better, and you know, refine his play. And today he was great on the Batiste for the Houston Outlaws. I think really giving them a huge offensive weapon that they really haven't had in their past on that flex support role.
Yeah, it's crazy. The Outlaws now have this real reliability combined with this great aggression, you know, or this individual skill. Some teams have only one or the other, right? It's like they have these reliable players that aren't flashy, or these streaky individuals that can't be relied on but have great moments. The Outlaws have it all. Speaking of which, we're going to be coming back after a short break. We're going to step aside. We're going to hear from Happy, of course, as the Outlaws start their Summer Showdown campaign with a big W. We'll see you in a bit.
Coca-Cola is the official refreshment of the Overwatch League.
Welcome to the Watchpoint Post Show presented by IBM. We're joined now by Happy from Houston Outlaws. Happy, congrats on the win. How are you?
Hi.
Happy
Thank you.
안녕하세요. Thank you. Are you feeling good? Are you happy?
너무 좋습니다. 너무 좋아요.
너무 좋아요. All right, Happy says he is indeed very, very happy for the win. All right, let's jump right into the question. So my first question for you, Happy, is, after dropping the first map today against the San Francisco Shock, the Houston Outlaws came back strong and clutched the win at the end. Did you guys see any weaknesses in the San Francisco Shock that you guys were able to sort of exploit? 첫 번째 질문은 이제 첫 번째 맵에서는 좀 힘들어 하다가 휴스턴 팀이 끝에 가서는 오늘 경기의 승자가 되셨는데요. 오늘 경기에 들어오면서 좀 센쇼의 약점 이런 게 좀 보인 게 있었나요? 또 만약에 있었다면 그걸 좀 어떻게 사용을 해서 승리를 거두시게 되셨나요?
제가 생각했을 때는 그쪽 로스터에 따라서 조합을 예측하기가 좀 쉬운 것 같아요. 그러니까 뭐 바이올렛 선수랑 트와일라이트 선수 같이 나오면은 뭐 보통 루시우를 잘 기용 안 하거나 이런 거를 예측할 수 있고, 뭐 네로나 글리스터 선수가 나오면 뭐 이제 러쉬 조합 같은 걸 예상을 할 수 있어서, 그리고 쇼크는 전에 경기를 이미 했던 것도 있어서 더 예측하기 쉬웠던 것 같아요. 그래서 더 그에 따라서 이제 잘 맞춰서 했던 것 같아요.
Alright, so I think for San Francisco Shock, one of their weaknesses is it's sort of easier to guess what sort of comp they're going to roll out with by looking at their roster. For example, if they are coming out with Violet and Twilight, we could sort of predict that there's a high chance that they're not going to run a Lucio. And again, another good example is if they have Nero and Glister, there's a high chance they might be opting out for that rush composition. Not only that, we also have played against San Francisco Shock frequently, so we sort of know how they play and how they change their play styles. So we sort of use that and to get the win today against the San Francisco Shock. All right, my next question for you is your last match of the qualifiers, Happy, the Houston Outlaws qualifier matches, is going to be against Dallas Fuel again for the battle for Texas. And Dallas Fuel, they're the teams that knocked you guys out of the Junjiao's tournament. For this time around, though, how can you sort of beat the Dallas Fuel and change out the outcome this time? 자, 두 번째 질문은 이제 그 휴스턴 팀의 마지막 경기가 달라스 팀과의 경기가 될 텐데요. 그게 또 이번에 또 Battle for Texas. 이거 한국말 어떻게 하지? 텍사스의 싸움이라고 하겠습니다. 이게 명확한 명칭인지 모르겠지만은 아무튼 그 경기가 한 번 더 이루어질 텐데 저희 또 달라스 팀이 저번 6월 토너먼트에서 휴스턴 팀을 이제 떨어뜨린 장본인으로서 이번엔 좀 어떻게 하면은 휴스턴 팀이 승리를 거둘 수 있을까요?
댈러스가 지금 윈스턴 조합을 많이 쓰고 있는데 그때는 솔직히 대처하는 방법을 잘 몰랐다고 저희는 생각을 하고 있고, 이제는 많은 팀들이 윈스턴 조합을 많이 쓰니까 이제 대처하는 방법을 저희도 찾은 것 같고 이번엔 이길 겁니다.
Alright, so back in the Junjiao's tournament, and Dallas is sort of the team that really heavily focuses on using the Winston composition. So back then in the Junjiao's, we sort of didn't know how to fight against a Winston comp like that. But nowadays, not only Dallas Fuel, but a lot of teams are sort of using that dive Winston composition. So including our team, a lot of teams are sort of learning how to fight off against a dive composition. So basic answer, this time the outcome is going to be different and we will take the win for the battle for Texas. Alright, Happy, that is it for the interview. Thank you so much for your time. 해피 선수 이렇게 시간 주셔서 너무 감사드리고 인터뷰해 주셔서 너무 감사드립니다.
네, 감사합니다.
Alright, let's head back to the desk.
Thank you so much, Danny. Thanks a lot, of course, also to Happy, our guest here, for some quick chats with Danny. And congratulations to the Houston Outlaws, as well as to Reinforce. You're gloating. You can gloat a little more. Like, I can feel it. You're not saying it, but I can feel it.
Let's save it.
You saving it?
Save it,
Oh yeah, we have plenty of time. We're gonna look at those, prediction look backs and all that things. So you get your hot 3 minutes. It's gonna be fantastic. Now I do want to talk about the match though, because Houston, they are off to a great start, getting their first victory on the board here in the Summer Showdown Qualifiers. And a big loss, of course, also for the Shock here, as they now sit at a 2-2 score. That means that they actually have to wait and see if they end up in the top 6 and make it into the knockout. So now kind of their fate is out of their hands. Not a great spot to be in. And one big thing which stood out, or there was actually a lot of things which standing out in this match, but one big thing is the lack of musical chair being played from the Houston Outlaws, Costa. That's something you brought up time and time again.
Yeah, it's something that the San Francisco Shock are still doing a lot as well. And today you could see Houston Outlaws come in with a very solid plan. They knew how they wanted to play the game. They didn't make a lot of player subs. They didn't make a lot of hero subs because they believed in what they were playing and they just knew that they could play it better than the San Francisco Shock. We saw Chengdu exclusively pretty much play the Orisa this entire match, and they played around that, and we just heard it from Happy from the interview with Danny that they know that the San Francisco Shock want to lean onto these Winston compositions, so they found a way and a composition that would not allow the Shock to play that. And that's going to be a continuing theme throughout the rest of this Summer Showdown because it seems like everyone is trending this way. We even saw the Florida Mayhem have success with that composition as well today. So are we going to move towards this bunker style meta, and is that going to be really good for the Houston Outlaws? Because they looked unstoppable in this game against the Shock. The Shock weren't even close in these last 2 maps because the Outlaws are just firing on all cylinders.
Yeah, and this is part of why I predicted the Houston Outlaws to win to begin with, because they were playing these slower compositions, the Reinhardts, the Orisa, the Sigma. That is when the Houston Outlaws really shine. But I also want to give credit to the playstyle that they brought to the table, because they were actually playing to win. And we saw this so many times throughout the match, that they would sometimes use ultimates that didn't make sense, they didn't get any value. And it's very easy to watch a game like this and say that guy just wasted an ultimate. Piggy used a gravitic flux and he got no value and it's wasted. But they kept trying to turn these team fights around. They kept trying to win the game by making plays rather than let the game come to them and capitalizing on unforced errors from the San Francisco Shock. So I actually want to give credit to the Houston Outlaws, just because they played the right compositions, but because they also went for these big plays, and that is what ended up winning them this game, I believe, in a way. Piggy hit some nice gravitic fluxes, Dante was a menace on that Echo, and when you're able to consistently, confidently trust your teammates and go for these big plays, that is when you really start popping off as a team. So I really appreciated the play style from the Houston Outlaws in this match.
Yeah, and on the other side, the Shock, definitely a lot to take away, I think, when looking back at this match. There were a lot of moments I think they can, take a step back, look at it, and learn from it. They took so many fights. I feel like they took every opportunity to actually fight, and then didn't really win the majority of it. So definitely something to look into. Maybe cut down on the aggression a little bit, even more so when you're going up against a bunker comp such as what we saw from the Houston Outlaws. Now, our second match of the day actually turned out to be so entertaining and so much closer than a lot of us would have expected. The Fuel snuck out a victory against the Mayhem, and the Mayhem was fielding their new main tank, the Checkmate, of course. Well, he wasn't the big difference maker, I dare say. However, Mayhem overall, they did look a lot better. At least a lot better than what we saw from them in recent matches. They are disqualified now. They're not going to make it into the Summer Showdown knockouts. However, they did end the Summer Showdown qualifiers on a high-ish note despite the loss. Does that make sense?
It does make sense, Zoe. Yes.
Thank you.
It does make sense. Similarly, actually, with the Florida Mayhem, they played with this aggression and relentlessness with Checkmate on the main tank, where they just kept going for these plays. It didn't really work, like the Rhino plays. Checkmate was feeding a little bit. But Danny, you actually interviewed Fearless as well, and he was saying that he felt a little bit caught off guard, right?
He did. He was saying that there was unorthodox gameplay, he admitted that it sort of caught him off guard, and he was very surprised.
Yeah. So I mean,
Checkmate came from every direction.
Yeah, he did. Yeah. So I love that from Mayhem. Obviously, you can't give too much credit to Checkmate because he was not the one forcing map 5 here. It came together with Yaku, BKB popping off on the DPS, but this at least brought some life to the Florida Mayhem, where they had relentlessness to their game plan. They went in, they weren't afraid, they tried to make plays, backfired most of the time. Checkmate got shattered a lot of the time by Fearless. There were some MTD there, but it looked good, Costa. So I liked what I saw from the Florida Mayhem, even though Summer Showdown is over for them.
Yeah, I did love the Chad mate. I think he did a phenomenal job of just playing alpha. He understands, and Johnny, you hit on this, he understands the win condition for the team is not him thriving and him killing everyone. He just needs to be that threat. And I think throwing a wrench at Dallas Fuel by just playing that aggressive, it's admirable, but it didn't work for the most part. Really, where Florida found success was on those Orisa comps that we just saw from the Houston Outlaws as well. So if they can embody that a lot more and they can play around that style, I think Florida Mayhem could have, done a lot more in the Summer Showdown. As you said, Sully, unfortunately they're out, so it's not really great for them, great timing for them. But if we learn anything from this match, the Dallas Fuel has a weakness. They didn't have an answer to this Orisa bunker style that we're starting to see more from teams. So is the Dallas Fuel going to get found out? Are they going to be able to overcome this playing either Winston, or they even played a lot of Brawl? So time will tell, but Dallas Fuel doesn't look as unstoppable as we've seen from them so far this season.
So I've got a
Part
question.
of me
actually,
really... Oh, yeah, go for it.
So we've said that the Florida Mayhem, that their Summer Showdown is over. They're right, they can't qualify for the knockout games, but they play against the Washington Justice tomorrow, and it's double points in the pick'em. So Danny, what do we do with this one? The Washington Justice for double points.
Don't give away your homework, guys. Johnny's trying to trick you guys.
I mean...
No, we're trying to provide the audience with this is our job, to educate the audience.
I don't really feel like we've done them a favor if they ever listen to our pick.
Danny, help me out here. Do you trust the Chad mate?
Actually that helpful.
I mean, judging by the gameplay that we saw and what we saw from Washington Justice, I think Florida has the upper hand.
I agree.
I
agree. Yeah, no.
I mean, I'm gonna be honest. You know what? I think all of us nowadays, and even Johnny, everyone's being really honest, right? So I'm gonna be really honest.
So
and
honest.
I was pretty disappointed from Washington Justice yesterday. And Florida Mayhem, on the other hand, even though they lost, like how we all talked about, it was entertaining, and also those, they had a clear game plan against one of the best teams in the Overwatch League, currently Dallas Fuel, and they didn't look as bad. So if it's Florida Mayhem versus Washington Justice, I have to go with Florida Mayhem.
You know what makes me really sad? You know what match I would love to see tomorrow, straight out of the bat? Dallas Fuel and Houston.
Wait, is that tomorrow?
Yeah, because Dallas's only real tangible weakness so far has been going up against the Orisa comp. Fearless even admitting that kind of threw them some way. And then on the other side, Houston literally almost only relying on that Orisa comp today, looking so strong with it. I want to see that clash, and I want to see if Dallas manages to once again get away with it and wiggle their way out. That would have been really interesting for me. Alas, that's not going to happen. They will not face up against tomorrow. But yeah,
it is soon though. It is soon. Battle for Texas.
Soon TM.
Soon. Very soon.
Yeehaw, it's coming your way. Now we do still have one more match we want to discuss, and that was the first one of the day. Feels like forever ago, but still, of course, still fresh in our memory. Paris. They did clinch first spot in the Summer Showdown knockouts. I believe they are actually the first team to get in. Yeah, well, how far do we think they can make it, based on what we've seen so far from them? It was a great qualifier.
I think Paris is one of those teams that really thrive in these Reinhardt compositions when they can play around the Symmetra, and I think the versatility of Naga and Onigod really aids to that as well. So I think Paris Eternal can have the opportunity to upset a lot of teams. Will they make it to Hawaii all the way through the qualifiers? That is a bit of a stretch, but I think they have the potential to beat any team. And I think especially as we see more of these top teams really start to struggle, the Dallas Fuels, the San Francisco Shocks, it can be anyone's game, and I hope it is, because I would love to see these rookie players on the Paris Eternal really thrive and sort of get into those high-pressure situations, kind of how we saw Atlanta Reign do it in the June Joust. So exciting stuff ahead for the Paris Eternal and their fans.
Absolutely. I mean, this is a very exciting roster.
Made them plurals. The Dallases, the Shocks, all of them.
I feel like
didn't mean to interrupt.
Paris. I feel like Paris keeps leveling up on a constant level. They're they level up every game throughout the whole season. And by end of the every stage. I feel like by the end of the season they're gonna be super good.
They're gonna evolve.
Maybe Paris Eternal is the protagonist team of the Overwatch League.
Yeah.
Fearless is the character
Are they
of the
adding a story we didn't even see coming?
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, the writers were like, yeah, Paris Eternal from zero to hero. That's what the people really want. Well, here comes the Paris Eternal. Summer Showdown.
Started from the bottom.
They're leveling up. Yep.
They're leveling up. I can't wait to see
Crusher
where we're
99.
ending up with them. Now, I believe this is the favorite part of Reinforces Day, so you know what? I'm just gonna hand it over to you.
Yeah, let's take a look at the predictions from today. Please, I'm so happy I finally got a win. Like, my goodness. I've just taken loss after loss, fallen behind in the ditch, but here it is. The Houston Outlaws. I think, I'm not even kidding here, I think this might be the first time in my 5-year analytical career that I've ever predicted the Houston Outlaws correctly, win or loss. Like, this might be the first time.
That's
and
not
I'm
true.
second
Remember that day when we
titled
all
so.
predicted them?
But that was
No.
really
I had
Danny's
that
prediction,
trained
not
somewhere.
Johnny's prediction.
Yeah.
No,
No, I
actually,
blacked
it's
out.
true.
I can't remember that day.
Hey,
Blacked out. Still-
is this the first time that I'm?
See, I have a
on the
picture
bottom?
of it actually. That's so random. that I
Balloons.
just have that right by my-
Productions. Do you have balloons?
Oh,
Oh,
Unfortunately,
you
the
do,
green
actually.
is keyed out, but
Oh, the shock
Yeah.
game. Yeah, you're right. Wait, they beat the
Yeah.
shock that one?
I remember.
Yeah, oh.
yeah.
I
You guys
remember.
deviated
Beginning
from
of
the
the season.
script.
Do you like that I have that printed out right next to my book? Well, it's because it used to be my fearless frame, right? It was like
Of course,
I just
yeah.
have-
Next to
I just have stuff framed for no reason.
What is that?
Because I'm very
What are
committed.
those eyes?
Oh,
It's a
Friendship with the Outlaws
That's
ended.
just- that's-
Fearless is my best friend now.
No, this is just Winston's eyes. You never look close enough, I guess. That's weird.
yeah.
I guess not.
Yeah. Well, here we are.
Yeah,
Yay, me!
not a good day for me, guys. Yeah.
It's
Hey,
I'm on the
tomorrow's
bottom.
gonna be better. Don't worry
tortoise in the
about
hair. You got it.
it. Exactly.
It's fine. I'm
Turtle
just gonna
stuff.
go crazy. You guys, I'm just gonna go for crazy predictions now. I'm just gonna,
I
watch
think
out,
that's
everybody.
the play. That's
Watch out.
exactly the play. I
Yeah.
encourage this behavior because that will ensure that I'm not going to be lost. So you.
So we know.
Yeah, what? I'm doing this for all of us. Keep on being encouraged.
Tomorrow's matches are actually very difficult.
They
so
are.
we'll
They really
see
are.
what happens.
I'm not looking for. I need like 10 cups of coffee before I
Easy.
make those
What are you guys
predictions.
talking about? It's easy.
And that's the behavior which got you into the last place, Danny. That's exactly the problem. Oh, that hurt. I'm
Brutal.
sorry. Okay, he's gonna recover from that sting. Don't go anywhere because when we are back, we're gonna peak. That's right. Best of the day coming up right after this. Coca-Cola is the official refreshment of the Overwatch League.